So the purpose of this presentation is to help everyone in the pest management industry to create a bright future for themselves, for their pest control business. And we're going to do this by seeing how we could also create the future of pest control, to invent the future of pest control. That is the best way to predict the future. So I'm going to share with you some insights that will help you to do that. Okay, so at present, you know that there are various factors that influence you as a pest manager, and these are factors that have influenced your past, and now it's influencing your present, and it will also influence your future. So if you look at this chart clockwise, starting at 12 o'clock, 12 noon, if you like, industry associations, they have a very big impact on you as a pest manager as to how you shape your business in the past and also in the present, and they'll continue to help you in the future. And we are going to see your active role in the future in relation to all these different 9 factors that I've shared. So then comes the suppliers. So suppliers are the people from whom you buy your products, like your distributors and some manufacturers as well. They too have an impact on you and they influence you as to how you do your pest control business. And then we have the innovators like Envu, who take an active role and who are actually seeking a good partnership with you, to partner with you to create a bright future for you and also to shape the industry for the future. And then you have various license authorities in the different states who issue the pest control license. They too have an impact on you because in order to maintain your license, you are going to be practicing your pest control business to satisfy them. So they have an impact on you as well. And then importantly, your clients, they too now today, because of Google and globalization, they are able to see how pest control is done in other countries, and they too have an impact on you by asking you to do pest control in a certain way. And then of course there is the global industry, the global international pest control industry, who also have an impact on you through their magazines, through their trade shows, through their exhibitions, training programs, and so on. So all these factors have in the past been influencing you, shaping you as to how you do your pest control, and are still the same today. But we cannot continue this way. There has to be a change if you are going to take the industry to the next level and also to take your own pest control business to the next level for a bright, prosperous future. You do need to take a more active role. Rather than letting all these factors influence you, you need to take charge and start influencing them as well. There's nothing wrong in them influencing you. Thankfully, all these factors and people have been taking initiative and influencing the industry, and they've brought the industry to where it is today. But you too need to do your part in actively participating and influencing these influencers as to the next level in pest management to take you to the next stage, to go and become prosperous and also to have a bright future. So what are some of the things that you could do? That's what we are going to discuss in this webinar. So a quick recap on the evolution of pest control. As you know, the pest control industry today was not the same some years ago. In the distant past, they were known as exterminators. We were all known as exterminators because our whole focus was just on extermination. We would buy the strongest chemical and spray it everywhere, and of course there were results, everything did die. But that was the whole focus on using the strongest chemical and trying to exterminate everything that's in a house or in a hotel or in a restaurant. And then came the environmental movement that reacted to this because we were using products like organochlorines and DDT and so on, which had environmental impact, environmental damage. And there was a book by Rachel Carson called Silent Spring, you might remember. This had a huge impact around the world, and it forced the industry and the manufacturers as well to change. And we became known as pest control operators because no longer did we just focus on the strongest chemical, we also had to focus on the biology of the pest. So it was not good enough just taking the strongest chemical and running around spraying something. One had to really know the biology of the pest so that one knows exactly where to spray and to treat and to do it effectively. So the industry moved from the phase of extermination to become pest control operator or PCO. And this didn't happen because of strategic planning to move to the next phase. It happened because of pressure from clients, from the environmental movement, regulatory authorities and so on, who brought about pressure on the industry to change from exterminator to pest control operator. So the whole focus from chemical focus became pest focus. And today we are known as the pest management industry, or as pest managers, professional management industry, pest professional manager, we are known as. And this change has happened again because of environmental reasons and because of our clients and because of globalization. And today we are talking about integrated pest management. We're talking about the green pest management, sustainable pest management, using chemicals and non-chemicals for this, baiting and trapping. And these have become the norm now. Whereas in the distant past, or not even that distant past, even 10 years ago or 15 years ago, if we started talking about using devices like fly traps, electric fly traps and so on, for example, they were not considered to be part of the tool of a pest manager or a pest controller. They were seen as something what the client would do. But today, all these electric devices, electronic devices, plastic bait stations and so on are becoming very much part of the industry and shaping us to be the professional pest manager. A lot of people think that IPM or sustainable pest management simply means using chemical and non-chemical means. No, that's not the real meaning of that. True, it's part of that. But in a true sustainable pest management program or integrated pest management program, we will be using less materials, be they chemicals, be they non-chemical materials. Still, we would be using less materials, but placing them in a more strategic way so that we get a better result, a better outcome, a better reduction in the pest numbers, and at the same time providing a better service at a higher value. And we will look at some of those principles in a few minutes. So the question at this point in time is for each one of us to ask, are we in this business of pest control for the short term, or are we in it for the long term? If you are in it for the short term, then who cares? We can just continue to do what we are doing at the moment, just go on repeating the same things we are doing now, and of course we'll be there in it for the short term and we may get eliminated as a result. There could be some disruption in the industry, like what happened to the taxi industry with Uber, for example, or the hospitality industry with the Airbnb and so on. There could be a disruption if you just think short term, and then we'll be out of the business. So it is time to think long term about our business. True, we evolved from exterminator to PCO to pest manager today, but what's next? Are we going to wait for our clients, for the regulatory authorities or the manufacturers or innovators or suppliers, licensing authorities to tell us what to do to move to the next phase, or are we going to do this actively and take this business to transcend to a higher level and do a better professional pest management? And how can we do that? That is why long-term business thinking is very important, and we have to move away from this short-term direction and take the direction of thinking long-term. Long-term for ourselves, long-term for our business, long-term for our industry, long-term for the environment and so on. So what are some of the hallmarks of a person, of a company, of a business that is thinking more long-term rather than a very short-term thinking? Short-term, you'll be thinking just the turnover. What is my business turnover for my pest business? And we just focus on just increasing it every year by a bit. The long-term thinker would be looking more at the profitability. Is this really profitable, or am I just having a lot of activity and looking at turnover numbers but not looking at the actual profitability? The profitability is long-term, and that would be more sustainable for your business. So if you're a short-term thinker, you'll be thinking of ad hoc jobs, just the jobs for the day and to forget them, just to go to a house or a restaurant, hotel, do a treatment and forget about it. Whereas if you're thinking long-term, you'll be looking for a relationship with the clients. You'll be thinking long-term not only for the pest management program, like having a contract with them, but you'll be also looking at a close relationship with the clients where you'll be doing a lot of things together, building their liking for you, building their trust for you, and being a partner with them in the process. So therefore your business too will be more sustainable. If you're short term, you'll be also thinking of just customer acquisitions. Now I must tell you that nothing is wrong just thinking of turnover and have jobs or just looking for customer acquisition. They're all good things, but you should be over focused just on them because they are more short term. You should be thinking more of the long term. So rather than just thinking how I can grab more customers by underquoting, going below the price and taking somebody else's business, you should be thinking more about client retention. Who are my big clients? Who are the ones who are there for the long term? How can I protect them? How can I sustain my relationship with them? That is thinking long term. And I think you already know that getting new customers is more expensive than client retention. We can do a whole webinar, a whole training program on all these factors that I'm sharing. But today I'm just highlighting only an overview of these factors. So then another short-term thinking is to just look at the price of the bottle. What is the price of this pesticide bottle? This, whatever, 1,000 rupees, the other one is 800 rupees or whatever it may be, and just going by the price. That is short-term thinking. Whereas we should be thinking how much of chemical mixture, spray, solution would this make? How much of ml goes in a liter? How far will it go? How much will it cover? How long will it last? And so on. Oops, sorry about that. So it's very important to think long term, to think of your investment. When you buy chemicals to do your treatment or bait boxes or whatever tools you may be buying, to think of them as an investment rather than just a price and look to see how far they would go. The other important point is about generic products and branded products. If you're a very short-term thinker, you would go with the generic products because of the price or availability or whatever the reason may be. But whereas if you're a long-term thinker, you would go with the branded products. And why is it important to go with the branded products? For example, all the products that you have in the market in India today were originally launched by the innovators like Envu. They were known as Bayer before. But whatever it may be, they are the ones who invented these products, spent a lot of money inventing, researching, developing and launching these products, and they're continuing to do that. And then of course come the generics who just copy it once a patent expires. And in appearance, they may seem to be the same, they may seem to have the same active ingredient and so on. But it's not just the same. There's a lot that has gone into not only to the active ingredient, even if the active ingredient source is the same, there's a lot of differences with all the other things that go into the bottle to carry the active ingredient that will go in a way through your sprayer in a proper way that would maintain the concentration of the active, the distribution of the active, how it would sit on the target areas, target pests, how it would penetrate them and so on, can be a huge difference. So don't just go by the same active ingredient in two bottles. It's not the same. Companies like Envu spend millions of dollars, billions of rupees in order to investigate, to research, to develop and to bring out the best to you. So if we keep on going for generics, what will happen is a discouragement for the innovators. So time will come when the innovators may just pull out or give up and say this market is not worth investing because the users are going for generics. So there are times when you can use generics. I don't see why not, and in some situations it may work well for you. But your focus should be on branded products. You should encourage your team, you should train your team, you should invite the innovators like Envu to come and be part of your team to do the training so that you can use these products for the long term. And you will find that long term there's value. Your investment will go a long way than going with short term solutions like generic products. Then come your suppliers. Again, if you're thinking short term, you'll be thinking of them as suppliers and getting it just because their price is low or whatever. But if you're thinking long term, you will see people as partners, like companies like Envu, who have strategic distributors, and with them you can form a partnership with them and they will help you in the long run. So this is why it's very important to think long term rather than just thinking short term. And you yourself, when you look at your own staff, if you're a short term thinker, you will see them as trainees. you will want to just train them just enough to go and do some treatment. Whereas if you're thinking long term, you would see your staff and yourself to be together as learners, that you learn together. They teach you, you teach them, and try to do the best for your clients. Try to absorb the best knowledge that is available from strategic partners who can help you with training like Envu, for example. So if you're short term, you'll be reacting to everything. You'll be leading change by reaction. To whatever happens around you, you will change. Others are always changing you. But whereas if you're thinking long term, you'll be thinking very proactively and wanting to lead the change. And we're going to see some examples as to how you can do that. So very important to create an impression of yourself, a brand of yourself in the market. If you're a short-term thinker, there'll be no branding. To have proper branding, you need to think long-term. You'll be thinking of the value that you provide in the market. What is your mission in the market? What sort of integrity people see in you? How you position yourself against the competition? What is your vision? What is your identity? What are all your marketing efforts and strategy and all that go into building the brand? Now, this itself can be a big webinar by itself, and we're not going to go into all of that. But I'd just like you to know that you need to focus on building your brand for the future. Because I'm pretty sure that you don't want to be just another pest controller. Because if you look at the market from a consumer's point of view, or even from a hotel's point of view, or restaurant owner's point of view, they see us all as the same. All pest managers look the same to them. All making the same claim that they are best, they're doing the most environmentally friendly treatment, they got the best equipment and so on. It all sounds the same, looks the same, and they cannot differentiate amongst us. And this is why very often they go with price, because we haven't taken the trouble to educate our customers. So the only thing they know is to look at numbers and they go with price. So the whole idea of webinars like this and training programs is to help you stand out from the crowd, so that when people interact with you, starting from the phone, starting from the time your salesman calls in, starting with your technician and so on, they go, wow, these guys are different. There's something different about them. So that is the purpose of these webinars that Envu has started, to help you stand out from the crowd so that it will be easier for you to reach your target clients. So the pest control industry is bound to grow. If you look at all the market research done in the last few years, the global industry has grown exponentially. Today it's about a $25 billion industry worldwide. And there are three key drivers that are helping the pest control industry to grow. One, of course, is the wealth. A lot of people's wealth are growing, especially in Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia. The middle class is growing. The wealth is growing, and as a result, the hospitality industry is growing. Restaurants, hotels, they all are growing. And there's also increasing concern about food safety. People will not tolerate any contamination by insects. And there's a lot of concern, especially after the COVID and so on, even for food safety. So we know that in spite of the very best pest control treatments, sometimes food safety is compromised. They do appear in food. And why is that? And we are going to look at some of the factors as well. And we also know that there's been a pest explosion all around the world, not only in India, but around the world. The pest numbers are increasing and increasing and increasing and growing in a large scale. Why is that? Let's have a look at some of the reasons. Of course, there's global warming. You have heard a lot about it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I think most people accept there's global warming, and this is changing the behavior of the pests. Pests are appearing in areas where they were not there before, and so on. And also the population explosion all around the world, particularly in India, South Asia, the population is really growing in a big way. And this is also contributing to the transport of pests from one city to another and within cities. And then you have this rapid urbanization, a lot of concrete buildings coming up all over. And during the construction process, they are ideal for mosquitoes to breed, rats to harbor, and so on. And later they start haunting other adjacent areas. And also a lot of new buildings result in more dense waste, more apartments, more condominiums, more hotels, and so on. More cities bring about more waste, and that also helps the pests to grow in a big way. And then there's this construction boom, which is also contributing to the increase of so many pests, as mentioned already, like mosquitoes, rats, who can harbor in all these construction sites because of perfect conditions for them to breed. And of course, the growth in air travel. Of course, COVID put a stop to this, but prior to that, there was an explosion of budget air travel, and now it's coming back. And more people travel, the more pests will be distributed within countries, within cities, and also around the world. So I mentioned before that in spite of the very best pest management treatments we may do, still there's a problem with pests, and they do appear, in especially compromising food safety and so on. And the reason for that is because we are not addressing the very fundamental reasons why there is a pest problem. This is something that we do need to address. For example, there was a study done in the University of Nebraska in the US with cockroaches, but they found just by improving the hygiene alone, they could bring down the population by 50%. And also by doing exclusion measures, that means sealing off all the cracks and crevices, preventing pest entry, another 30% could be reduced. And control was really needed only for the remaining 20% of the population. And this is true for all pests, whether it's cockroaches or rodents or flies or mosquitoes. Always hygiene is the most critical factor. This means preventing those pests from having food and water and hiding places. Exclusion is preventing their entry and breeding inside. Control, this would be the chemical measures and non-chemical measures. So, but very often, as you know, we start with control measures, be it chemical or non-chemical. We start using control measures first, and when there's no proper control, we start blaming the clients, saying that their hygiene is not good. We start blaming them, saying they didn't do all the exclusion measures. Now this has to change. I know with the hygiene, a lot has to be done by the client, but with the exclusion, there's a lot you can do yourself. Like sealing cracks and crevices, you can buy a caulking gun and silicone and start sealing them for the clients, for example. There are even rodent exclusion products now available in India. I saw the other day, Road Exit, there's one in India available. And then if you do your control measures, you will have a far better result than what you're getting now. So pest control definition has changed over the years, and in modern context and in future context, what pest control would mean is not going around spraying some chemicals or doing non-chemical and chemical. Pest control in the future would mean a program where there's a maximum impact on the pests, a maximum reduction of pest numbers. At the same time, there's a minimal impact on humans, on food, property, and the environment, and using the least amount of material by strategic placement. So whether you're using chemical or non-chemical, you will place it directly onto the pests or directly in places where the pests are likely to be found or likely to be harboring or likely to cross. And you have to stop this practice of spraying everywhere and then praying and hoping that the pests would follow it and die. This has to stop. And we need to take the industry to the next level. And we can do this by looking at pest management as a program. Inspection is very, very important, as you know, but inspection only reveals to you where the pests are and where they are found. But we need to take it beyond that and do a root cause analysis by asking the 5 whys. Why is the pest there? Okay, it is there because of what reason? Okay, hygiene. Why is the hygiene poor? Okay, because the hotel is not providing enough bins that can be sealed. Why is that? The hotel doesn't think it's important. So why is that? Because they're not educated by the industry to see its importance and so on. So you do need to get to the 5 whys at least so that you can address the problem. Then of course the risk assessment. This is not something that we do as a routine today, but it will become routine tomorrow, and it's already becoming routine, especially the food processing industry. So risk assessment is not only considering the risk from the pests, but also considering the risk from your own treatment, the risk to your own staff, the risk to the client, risk to the environment, putting it all into one program before embarking on a pest management program. And exclusion is becoming the key. Need to keep the pests out. So these are the measures that we need to take, including hygiene by the customer, by the client, and us actively encouraging, participating in improving the hygiene. Then we can consider non-chemical methods and chemical methods to control the pests. So we shouldn't just jump and start using chemicals or non-chemicals and trying to control the pests. We should do all these steps: inspection, root cause analysis, risk assessment, exclusion, hygiene improvement, and then consider what is the best approach with the chemical and non-chemical. If you're using chemical, what is the best formulation for the situation? It's a greasy kitchen, so what must I do there? Or it's an entirely concrete structure, so what sort of formulation would work best there? Or it's a very porous surface, so if it's a fly control, what should I do there? All these things you need to consider. And after you do the treatment, you do need to monitor and evaluate the treatment. There's no point in doing all this if there's no monitoring and evaluation. And then documentation is becoming more and more important today. More and more establishments, especially food processing, pharmaceutical establishments, are asking for documentation. They want to see a copy of your label, they want to see your safety data sheet, they want to see pest site reportings where the pests were seen, pest numbers, analysis, and so on. And then the cycle continues, it doesn't stop there. This feeds to each one of these steps, each one feeds, and we do it all, and we should do it all with care in mind, care of the customer. So there are various trends that are shaping us today and will shape us today. The pest managers, for example, are also changing, becoming, in some countries especially, becoming very digitalized in their reporting, for example, with their inspection, risk assessment, and so on, so that the clients also can see what the pest manager is doing and can see his reports at the same time as the pest manager. So they don't have to wait for reports, they can see live reports from the pest manager. Pests, I explained to you before, are increasing in numbers. Products are also changing, unlike in the past when products are very broad spectrum. Today's modern products are more specific, and application technology is also becoming more specific. You really need to target the pests when you apply. Construction industry is also changing a lot. Now they are focusing a lot on building out the pests and also fixing sensors that would alert both the pest manager and also the homeowner or the hotel or restaurant as to where the pests are. And the regulatory environment is what was driving us in the past, and they still will drive us in the present. And by regulatory, I don't mean just product registration. It also means various food audit regulations, AIB and BRC and ISO and HACCP, and all that has an impact. And all these feed back to the pest manager, and it's very important as pest managers, we also influence the steps all the way down. And digitalization is here to stay. The modern pest manager, the future pest manager will be very much digitalized using digital technology, be it for rodent control or for reporting or even for other pests. And hygiene, I've emphasized this so many times that this is something we have to work closely with the client and also do some of the exclusion ourselves. So what about the future? Now this is not the same chart you saw before, it looks the same. The past we were exterminators, pest control operators, and today we are pest managers. So now is the time to move on to the next level, to transcend to the next level, to become what are known as pest risk managers, PRM. This is where we would use more sensors, we would use digital monitoring, we would use root cause analysis, risk assessment, and be more caring. Even today, some of you are already doing this, some of you are already here, but most of the industry is not pest risk management category yet. Some of us are even still exterminators, not only in India, around the world, even in Western countries, some are still exterminators and just relying only on chemicals. Some are still pest control operators, looking only at the biology and the chemicals. And a lot are moving, of course, to the pest management using various technologies, IPM and so on. But the next level would be to become the pest risk manager. So from the past, when we were pest killers to pest protectors, I mean home protectors, health protectors, people protectors, we now become more caring in our approach. And we need to, if you have to move to the next level, and we have to do it actively. We need to be the change, to lead the change. So in the future, pest control officers will look like this. They'll be very digital, they'll be very virtual. This is not a concrete structure or anything. It's all virtual, it's all digital. Where for the pest manager, information will be available digitally. He'll be able to look up information on any pest, on their habits, their life cycle, what's the best pest for use for them. If it is termites, what's the best pesticide, termiticide to use for them, spiders and so on. All the information will appear like on the ceiling, so to speak, or on the wall, and they'd only sound the word termites and all the information will appear. This is how the future we can envisage or have a vision for it to take shape, and already some of these elements are taking shape digitally. How about the pest control technician? The pest control technician in the future will have everything in his hand, so to speak. There won't be much need to go into a hotel room, for example. From outside the hotel room, because of sensors and other technology in the room, he'll be able to make an assessment whether there's been, and he or she will be able to make an assessment whether there's any need to go inside or what the pest situation is. There'll be digital reporting, and if the situation warrants, only they will go in. So this will save time for the hotel and for the pest manager and the technicians. So a lot of time even going into homes will be eliminated because of digital technology in the future. And also for the owner or the manager of the pest management company, there will be various tools, digital tools, and also because of globalization will be all networked and linked globally, where the pest manager can just enter some information, just an address of a place, and that will tell the pest manager the type of building it is, the type of soil there, the type of construction, the type of product that is ideal for that situation to use, in this case premise, that it will last in that type of soil. That type of soil, it can behave in a better way to give better protection, it will spread better and so on. All this information will be available to the pest manager, so they don't have to go by hunches or instinct or what somebody says. It will be all digitally analyzed and presented as to the best option. It will also say which one is the most profitable product to use, for example. They can put in or click on all the products, the generic products and branded products and so on, and it will do a complete analysis price wise, quality wise and so on, and give the owner the direction as to how they should go. So all exciting things are happening for the future and will happen for the future, but you need to take the lead, especially with future pest control learning. There will be self-driving cars, for example, so you won't be wasting time in Mumbai traffic. You will be driving and learning at the same time from expert talks by Envu, for example. You could be doing while driving, you could be also reading books on pest control and so on in the future while you're heading to a job, because you will probably have self-driving cars, and these things are already happening and will become the normal in the future. So we saw today the various 7 trends that are shaping us, and these trends are there whether we like it or not, and we do need to take control of these trends, to grasp them and to lead them, and to be seen as the one driving the change for the future. Because in the future, we won't be exterminators or pest control operators or pest managers. The future will be in pest risk management. So this is where we need to head to by being very caring for our clients and for the environment and for our teams. And this is what we need to aim for, to be pest risk managers. And I already explained to you the difference between short-term and long-term. Some of you may have come late. Here are some of the hallmarks for long-term thinking. Think profitability, relationship with clients, client retention. Think of products for investment and not just look at the price of the bottle. Branded products, build partnerships with companies like Envu. See yourself and your staff as learners to learn together and positively lead the change. This is very, very important. And instead of being influenced by all the people around you, you start influencing all those around you. the associations, the suppliers, the innovators, the license authority, the clients in the global industry, you too need to take an active participatory role. Because only by doing this, you'll be able to create a bright future for your pest control business and also change the industry. You'll be able to create the future of pest control.